So recently a game called Monster Hunter Now was released and a lot of people were asking me, am I going to be playing this game? As I do play a lot of these mobile games like Pokemon Go, Pikmin, Bloom. I decided why not? It's an action game. I've never actually played the main series, so let's give it a whirl to see what it's like. I did actually get a lot of the pre-registration bonuses, as you can see. I happen to be someone who actually walks a lot, and as well I actually do play a lot of video games on consoles, for example. So ideally this game would be suited for a person like myself on paper. So to see what it was kind of like, I walked around, and as you can see, what you do is you go around fighting these monsters, and as you defeat them, they drop materials for you to use in order to craft new weapons in order to progress through the game. So what would a typical day be like? Usually for these types of games, it focuses a lot on walking. Here you can see as you walk, enemies come up on the screen and you can just tap it and defeat them pretty easily. I think these ones are meant more for you to just casually play as you go, which is kind of cool in my opinion, because I would imagine you can't really stay there if you're trying to go to some place. However, there are bigger enemies like this where it seems like they recommend that you actually go to a quote safe spot and play. Although for me, I gotta get going, and this was pretty easy overall. Now as you play though, you could actually lose health, and when your health gets too low, which in this case is under 30%, you actually can't battle the stronger enemies. So I guess that's one way to kind of stop you, unless you want to use potions, which actually cost money. However, you can still fight the weaker enemies, and as time goes on, your health actually regenerates. So you can kind of see how the game is. You go around fighting these enemies, you could stop like this, and as you're injured, you could actually walk it out and recover your health, or if you're really impatient, you could spend, for example, cash out currency on potions to regenerate yourself. There's also a story mode in this game, and these are the times where you should actually sit down, I suppose, to play it, because usually this involves tougher enemies. And just an example here, this guy was really tough for me initially, and as you faint, you can use these health potions, which you actually get 5 free a day to continue playing. So again, if you're really impatient, I can imagine someone spending real money to constantly refill up. But this story mode is how you progress in the game to enable yourself to get stronger weapons and as well be able to defeat stronger monsters later on. But as I am a walker, you can see I still stop for the animals and so forth, and for myself anyways, this was kind of fitting because in this situation where my health was low, I can't battle, I'm already doing something else anyways, so I'm kind of playing the game when I'm ready, not necessarily trying to stare at the screen 24/7, so it's kind of fitting. And then afterwards, when I'm done, I can go battle the enemies again, unless the internet dies. I think that's the enemy of all these mobile games, poor internet connection. So it really depends on what kind of player you are. I can see, for example, if you're coming more from a game console mindset, this might be a little, I guess, frustrating for a lot of people because you have to walk around or wait for you to be able to battle again if you're low health, whereas this is actually more what I'm used to in terms of games, for example, like a Pokemon Go, where you're walking around and playing occasionally when something comes up. So it really depends on what kind of player you are. For myself, as someone who walks a lot, it seems like, again, it was designed for a person like myself. And as you get stronger, the enemies become a lot easier to defeat as well, as you can see here. And every day you can complete some daily quests to get some more currency and items. Now, in this game, they also have these items called Paintballs. This is for if you're walking by a monster and you don't want to stop and defeat them, you can actually target them with these paintballs, and then when you get home, for example, at night or after work, you can then sit down and fight these monsters afterwards. So that's kind of a neat feature actually. There's these blue ones that you get for free each day. I'm not sure how it works precisely, but it seems like when your phone's in the background, it'll automatically target enemies for you to fight later on, or the other ones you can actually manually use it, but that's kind of a neat concept. So you don't have to actually just, for example, stop your day when you see an enemy that you need. You can just use this paintball and fight them during the nighttime. Afterwards, just complete the story. That's kind of a good balance. It's a neat feature that would be kind of interesting if it was implemented in other games as well, in my opinion. When you're home as well, it's probably a good time to finish the story mode where you can actually sit down and really focus on defeating these enemies. In defeating all these monsters and collecting items, you can then craft new armor and weapons, which actually changes your gameplay style. So in this example, I actually crafted this hammer, and these types of weapons in this game is supposed to be heavy hitting, but it's really slow. So as a test, you can see here how much it damages the enemy compared to a sword and a shield. Even with this enemy here, he's humongous, but look at how much energy that takes off, and just like that, it even knocks the internet connection out. But it really changes the style, because in this one, it's more about dodging and then making big hits. And what's interesting too is, depending on what weapon you're using, you could look like a maniac with your, I guess, face stuck in the phone, rapidly pressing it, staring everywhere. People will be wondering, hey, what are you doing? Whereas with a weapon like this, it's a little bit more, I guess, precise. You dodge, make a big hit, and then you just continue. Like here, even when I'm in the supermarket, it's easier to use, in my opinion, where it's easy to take down this large enemy. So again, you can actually change your gameplay style. And the other thing I was really interested in seeing was, how does this game work when you're playing with other players? So you can see here what happens is, when you're fighting a monster, you have an option to actually look for other players before you begin. And in this case here, there was actually quite a few, and it's really fun, in my opinion, just to cooperate with other players to take down enemies in this case. It doesn't have to be a bunch of people, it could be just you and another person, like you can see here, and if you two know what you're doing, you're, I guess, equipped properly, it makes the whole experience really smooth. With that said, in most Niantic games, there's something called a community day where there's special events, and in this game, there was something called a Diablos invasion. And it's this really strong monster apparently. I haven't actually unlocked it yet, but they enabled, for example, any player that was level 11 to be able to fight this thing. So I thought, hey, this might be good. Can I find other players? Is this their quote community day? It didn't seem like there were a lot of players actually that wanted to do it for whatever reason. So I tried to finish all these tasks, like take an AR photo. And I figured if there's no one around that wants to fight this big Diablo with me, I guess I'll try it myself. I think I'm fairly equipped and all that, so I started the fight here, and as you can see, okay, seems good. Oh, he's attacked, better dodge it. I dodged once, but oof, he hit me again, and that's it. One hit and I was gone. And here's an example. You could use your potions, for example, to regenerate and fight again. So I thought, why not? Let's try it again. But as you can see, he took me out again. I can see usually for a lot of people, they might get impatient and just keep clicking and using all of their potions, where eventually they'll have to pay money. But for this, I looked at it and like, okay, I was dying too much. So I decided to just finish some work of the day and walk around as I regenerated my energy. And I tried again to see what it was like. This time I didn't even wait for a full HP regen, because I assumed he's going to hit me once and I'm dead anyway, so why bother? So this time I tried to be a little bit more cautious in fighting the monster, which seemed actually it was working great, but as you can see, because of that, I ran out of time. So that's another factor. Like in that case, it was, okay, did I just need more people? Did I need stronger weapons? Maybe third time's a charm, and I decided to try again. I just went on the attack as usual, so I swiped it twice with some heavy hits and then immediately used the special attack. Note there, you can actually use your special attack to avoid all the damage for that brief moment from the enemy. As well, a nice dodge here, because as you know, one hit and you're gone. This game requires a lot of your attention. It's not very, I guess you could say, quote, casual in that sense. You need to play this like a regular game, for example, which is actually good in my opinion if you're into these types of action-oriented games as well, with a lot of role-playing elements to update your equipment. It seemed like here, just charge in again, smash it, and you can get procs here by using, for example, the appropriate weapons and stats to stun and paralyze it, as you can see here, which really helped. It looks like I was doing really well. Just running up and charging, it's a good opportunity. Smashed it, and again, it basically knocked it out. It looked like it was clear sailing from here, right? Well, no time to rest. Better knock it out. Great. I accomplished the mission for the day. It just seemed like they didn't consider, I guess, the levels of these enemies. So what do I think of Monster Hunter now? Overall, I think it was really fun, and again, I'm really impressed just with the gameplay and the mechanics. Everything just seems like what you would expect from a traditional standalone console game, as an example. Again, I haven't played Monster Hunter to have, I guess, any type of references to how the game is exactly like, but in general, again, it's really high quality in terms of what they've made here. If they keep it up and do things right, I can see this actually being really popular with a lot of people who prefer a more game-oriented game per se in these mobile games versus what we're probably used to, for example, playing games like a Pikmin Bloom or a Pokemon Go where it's kind of more casual. This game, it seems like it requires a little bit more dedication and skill, where people would find that stressful fighting all those enemies, but if that's your type of game, then this is a really good option. In terms of the negatives, I guess what I could see is because this is a mobile game and because of the quality of the gameplay, a lot of people might initially try it expecting that you can just sit there and keep playing this whenever you wish, but as shown, there is the barriers where if your health is too low, then you're going to have to actually wait it out or currently spend, for example, money to buy gems, to buy potions to enable you to play non-stop. So that could be a negative for people too if you're not expecting a game where you're going to have to literally, for example, go outside and walk or have some downtime. As well, this definitely won't be for people who just want a quote peaceful game where you're just walking around and just relaxing, no worries of fighting, reflexes or anything like that. This is definitely not your type of game. A word of advice too, which actually relates to gameplay style, in my opinion. It seems like this game, with the way it works, when you progress through chapters, afterwards the enemies on the map become really difficult, where the weakest enemies could actually be so strong that you're not prepared for it because the enemies randomly drop materials to help you upgrade. You could actually have a standstill because the enemies are just too hard afterwards when you finish the chapter, so you can't actually defeat them to get the low quality materials you need to upgrade your weapons. So in saying that, what you should do is take your time. If you find that going through the chapters you just barely defeated the enemy, maybe you should start farming up, for example, the weaker enemies in order to build up your gear. I think that's what helped me in this game so far, like fighting this Diablo, because I actually didn't rush like this one chapter here because it seemed like the enemies were getting tough, so I just started farming and not progressing. So that's a word of advice. You don't need to rush it. If you feel that the enemies are too tough, just walk, for example, build up your gear, and you'll have more fun, because that would give it kind of the right type of challenge versus getting like one shot all the time, for example. I'll be playing this game as well as all the other ones, because I just find with the way I play, I walk so much anyways. It's usually one game or the other. One game has a downtime, you open up the other one during different parts of the day. So for me, it's just about having fun, and why not? Everyone has different tastes and there's a variety for all. I just happen to play all types of games personally.